And that decision fueled years of furious, dedicated writing. He literally wrote his way out of ruin. It's an act of just profound personal integrity.
Now, for the truly sensational stuff, the scandals that everyone was talking about, we have a kidnapping that captivated the public.
The kidnapping of Ellen Turner, a wealthy 15-year-old heiress.
Right. She was abducted by a man named Edward Gibbon Wakefield, who tried to force her into marriage to get his hands on her fortune.
The marriage was later declared null and void, and he went to prison.
We did, for 3 years. But the key detail for us is what happens after. Wakefield, this notorious criminal, later becomes a highly influential political figure in the colonization of New Zealand.
That's a fascinating and kind of disturbing link. It shows how these figures from major scandals in Britain could just reinvent themselves as leaders in the colony.
And then there's the truly mysterious case that actually triggered a political movement.
The disappearance of William Morgan, an anti-Mason from Batavia, New York.
Morgan was about to publish a book exposing the secrets of the Masonic Society. He vanishes on September 13th.
And there were reports,
Deeply concerning ones, that a man who looked like Morgan was tied up and thrown into the Niagara River after a clandestine Masonic meeting. His body was never conclusively identified, but the public believed he'd been murdered by high-ranking Masons to silence him.
and the consequence was massive.
Huge. The outrage directly sparked the anti-Masonic movement, which became a serious political force in the U.S., running candidates for state and national office, all from one alleged crime.
And finally, we have to touch on two truly bizarre incidents. First, the riot over Christmas eggnog.
The eggnog riot. It breaks out at West Point, the U.S. military academy, on Christmas morning.
What happened?
Cadets were forbidden from drinking, but they smuggled in a ton of whiskey to spike their holiday eggnog. When officers tried to intervene, a full-scale brawl erupted. Swords, furniture, total chaos. It led to a lot of court-martials.
A moment of wonderfully absurd humanity.
And a much grimmer story. The fate of Chuni, the Indian elephant in London.
Oh, this is a tough one.
Chuni had been a popular attraction for years, but he ran amok and killed a keeper.
And the tragic part is the response. They had no way to humanely put down an animal that large.
None. They tried arsenic, they tried shooting him with muskets.
Yeah.
It didn't work. In the end, soldiers had to stab the animal to death over a prolonged period. It's just this grim snapshot of the primitive methods they had for dealing with exotic animals in these new urban centers.
So to round this all out, a few cultural and commercial footnotes that really set the stage for the future.
On January 15th, the French satirical weekly Le Figaro is founded in Paris, and it's famously still being published today.
We also see commerce getting more formalized. The Paris Stock Exchange opens at the Palais de la Bourse in November.
A necessary step to manage the capital that was fueling the industrial age.
And a dark historical endpoint. Cayetano Ripoll is executed on July 26th.
And he was the last person to be executed by the Spanish Inquisition's successor at its final auto de fe. It's the last gasp of one of history's most repressive institutions.
And finally, the turnover of the intellectual guard continues.
We see the births of the great mathematician Bernhard Riemann, Carlo Collodi, who would one day write Pinocchio, and the foundational American songwriter Stephen Foster.
And as they're being born, we see the departure of pioneers who shaped the previous century. Joseph Proust, the chemist, Stamford Raffles, the founder of Singapore, Joseph von Fraunhofer, the optician. The cycle just continues.
So when we step back and pull all of this together, 1826 really reveals itself not as a pause, but as a year of just intense parallel transformation.
Absolutely. On one hand, you have the world grappling with the deaths of foundational figures like Adams and Jefferson. That provides the sense of historical closure.
And at the same time, you see the violent internal cleansing of ancient military structures, like the Janissaries, signaling that the rules of warfare were irrevocably changing.
But running right alongside all that political drama was this quiet, determined emergence of a new reality.
Non-Euclidean geometry proves that our basic understanding of space was flawed, while Nicephore Niepce proves that light itself could be captured forever with the photograph. Reality was being redefined, both conceptually and visually.
It's a year where high culture Beethoven, completing his final, most challenging works, existed right next to this immediate shocking drama.
The sublime, right next to the shocking, the king's murder by arsenic, the kidnapping of Ellen Turner, the brutal killing of Chuni the elephant. The sheer complexity of human experience in that one year is enormous.
And geopolitically, we saw these new political structures trying to take hold. Nations like Argentina were founded.
But that process was immediately undermined by internal struggles and these reckless secession attempts, like the Republic of Fredonia, which failed in weeks. The map was being redrawn with frantic speed.
That density of history, the sheer amount of foundational change packed into 1826, it really makes you pause and wonder, what must it have felt like to live in a time when the basic assumptions about travel, empire, warfare, even math were all collapsing and being rebuilt at once?
And that leads us to our final provocative thought for you to consider. We focused on 1826 as a foundational year, a time of pivots. So if we apply that lens forward and look back 174 years from now to our own lifetime, what single event from the last few decades might be seen as the most truly foundational moment for the world of, say, 2198?
The moment we are currently living through, that will one day be seen as the moment the old world ended and the new one truly began. Food for thought indeed. Thank you for joining us for the deep dive into 1826. Welcome back to The Deep Dive, the place where we take stacks of source material articles, biographies, and deep research and turn them into instantaneous, essential knowledge for you.
And today, our mission. It's a big one.
It's arguably the single most important deep dive we could do into the art of performance. We are uncovering the foundational system that underpins almost every successful actor, director, and screenwriter working today.
Even if they don't know its name.
Exactly, whether they know it or not.
It's the water they swim in. We are diving into the comprehensive, systematic approach developed by the Russian theatrical visionary Konstantin Stanislavski.
Right.
His system transformed acting from, a career of external posing and just declaiming lines into a meticulous craft of psychological truth.
And as one of the writers we looked at put it, his ideas have become so pervasive, so accepted, that they're simply common sense now.
Right.
But if we pull back the curtain, we find a complex, evolving methodology. What is the fundamental goal of the system, at its core?
The goal, simply put, is repeatable truthfulness. And it's crucial to understand that Stanislavski's work is not static. It's an evolution spanning decades.
Oh.
The core mechanism is a little counterintuitive. It mobilizes the actor's conscious thought, their will, their intellect, the things they can control.
Logical parts of the brain.
Precisely.
Yeah.
In order to indirectly activate those processes that are usually uncontrollable. Things like genuine emotion, inspiration, and subconscious behavior.
So if I can't simply will myself to cry on cue 8 times a week,
Which you can't.
I use a conscious technique to open the door for that subconscious emotion to arrive organically.
That is the perfect way to put it. We are tracing how he moved theater from the art of representation, which involves just showing or illustrating an emotion,
Faking it.
to the art of experiencing. And that art of experiencing is the pursuit of psychological realism, where the actor truly lives the character's inner life, feeling feelings analogous to the role every single time.
That sounds exhausting.
It's an exhausting yet necessary pursuit for truth.
To really appreciate the magnitude of this revolution, we have to start at the beginning. What was the world of Russian theater like before Stanislavski and Vladimir Nemirovich Danchenko co-founded the Moscow Art Theater, the Met, in 1898? Our sources paint a picture of just utter artistic decay.
Artistic decay is charitable. It was a mess.
Well, a mess. Okay.
Stanislavski's biographer, Jean Benedetti, he gives us these almost satirical accounts of the standard practice. For starters, the script itself meant less than nothing.
Wow.
It was treated as a loose suggestion rather than a sacred text. And because the actors often didn't bother to truly learn their lines, a prominent feature of the stage was the prompter's box.
Ah, the omnipresent prompter.
Yes, if you were a star, your job was simply to plant yourself downstage center, as close to the prompter's box as possible, making sure you never missed your cue.
So they were just being fed their lines live on stage.
Exactly. You would wait for the line, deliver it straight at the audience in a ringing declamatory voice, and then give a fine display of passion and temperament. It was all spectacle.
That sounds like a zero-sum game for actual dramatic interaction. I mean, if everyone is focused on shouting their lines into the orchestra pit, how did they manage scene work?
They didn't. They really didn't. Direct, believable communication with other actors was minimal. There was no sense of ensemble, no genuine human exchange.
So no one's even looking at each other.
Rarely. Stage managers, accommodating these, presentational stars, would often arrange the furniture chairs, tables, settees, specifically so that when the actor sat down, they would still be facing the front.
Facing the audience.
Instead of facing each other. It was an external, purely presentational, and frankly, very tired form of theatrical practice.
So the MMAT from its inception was a direct institutional revolt against this vacuum of truth. They set out to achieve organic unity and realism, and they succeeded almost immediately, right?
They did.
The early productions of Chekhov, particularly The Seagull, were international sensations.
They were instant successes, but here's the crucial detail that often gets overlooked.
What's that?
Those initial successes were achieved without the formal system we study today. They were director-driven triumphs, not actor-driven ones. Stanislavski was functioning primarily as a meticulous, controlling director in the early years.
So how did that manifest in the rehearsal room? What did that look like?
He was a master planner. He would meticulously plan the interpretation of every role, the detailed physical blocking, and the entire mise-en-scène, the arrangement of everything on stage, completely in advance.
So he was a dictator, in a way.
A benevolent one, maybe?
Yeah.
He forced his company into unprecedented discipline and precision, and the groundbreaking result was an organic unity of all stage elements. The sound design, the setting, the lighting, the movement, it all worked together.
Which was revolutionary.
It was, but it meant the actors were still, in essence, brilliant puppets following external instructions.
The actors were reacting truthfully to the environment, but they didn't have a repeatable methodology for generating truthful inner impulses.
And you've got it.
So, if the Chekhov plays were smash hits and achieving this new level of naturalism, why was Stanislavski still dissatisfied? This dissatisfaction is the true catalyst for the system, isn't it?
It is the moment everything pivots. The problem wasn't external staging, it was the psychological depth. Stanislavski struggled profoundly with Chekhov's drama.
Because it's so subtle.
It's so subtle.
Yeah.
Chekhov's plays, unlike the grand tragedies or melodramas of the past, are quiet. They deal with the internal, unspoken lives of ordinary people. How do you direct an actor to truthfully convey that they're saying one thing, but thinking, wanting, or feeling something completely different?
That silent internal conflict.
Exactly. This struggle forced Stanislavski to invent the notion of subtext, what the character is really saying or intending beneath the surface of the dialogue.
And that changed everything for him.
It shifted his entire focus from external direction to interaction and what he called psychological realism. He realized that meticulous blocking could produce a beautiful external picture, but without an internal, repeatable technique for the actor to access the character's soul, that picture was fundamentally empty and unreliable.
So he realized the director couldn't force inner truth. The actor had to generate it themselves. That's the dividing line between the old way and the system.
It is the birth of the system, right around 1909, just after his artistic crisis of 1906. And it didn't come from a vacuum. It was a brilliant synthesis of existing European theatrical ideas.
Okay, let's run those down because they show the complexity of his research.
First, he drew on the Meiningen Company from Germany. They emphasized a director-centered, unified aesthetic demanding extreme discipline and ensemble commitment from the entire cast. He took their rigor.
Okay, what else?
Second, he incorporated the Malay theater tradition, which was known for its actor-centered realism. It emphasized developing believable, three-dimensional characters rooted in observation.
And the third influence.
The naturalistic staging principles established by André Antoine and the independent theater movement in Paris. Antoine was famous for breaking the fourth wall and focusing on detailed, realistic environments.
Right.
Stanislavski took that commitment to a believable environment, but aimed the focus inward. The formal system appears around 1909, marking his decisive shift to actor training methodology.
It sounds like Stanislavski essentially turned his own acting company into a laboratory to solve the problem of Chekhov. Did the actors embrace this new focus on psychological depth and exhaustive internal work?
Not initially, no. The sources mention significant resistance, even from established mad actors like Olga Nipper-Chekhov's wife, who resented being used as a test subject for these, invasive psychological experiments during the rehearsal of A Month in the Country.
They felt it was too much.
They felt the internal detailed analysis was excessive and time-consuming.
But he persisted, seeing it as the only path to consistency.
Absolutely. By 1911, he insisted, and the AMAT officially adopted his methodology as their standard rehearsal technique. It was a matter of securing a repeatable, dependable process. Before the system, great acting was like accidental genius.
Right, lightning in a bottle.
Stanislavski wanted to codify genius into a reliable method that every serious actor could master.
Okay, let's move into the nuts and bolts of the technique itself, which centers on that concept. Experiencing the role. You mentioned earlier that this is a highly demanding requirement.
It is.
Let's expand on that definition. The actor must experience feelings analogous to those of the character each and every time they perform.
This is the revolutionary and very controversial demand. It asks the actor to genuinely feel at the moment of performance. It wasn't just preparatory work, it was the performance itself.
And he was fighting against the established wisdom on this, right?
Oh, absolutely. Stanislavski framed this argument by contrasting himself directly with two giants of the 19th century stage. His opponent was the influential French actor Constant Coquelin, who argued for the art of representation.
Okay, and what was that?
Coquelin claimed that the actor should only feel the emotion during the preparatory phase. During the performance, they should rely on skill, technique, and cold calculation to reproduce the external appearance of the emotion.
That seems like the more rational, perhaps safer approach.
It is, but Stanislavski rejected it as emotionally shallow. He sided firmly with the Italian tragedian Tommaso Salvini, whom he deeply admired. Salvini insisted that actors must genuinely experience the feelings anew at every performance, whether it was the first time or the thousandth.
So what does experiencing truly mean in the system? Does it mean the actor has to be genuinely devastated every night when playing a tragedy?
Not necessarily genuine devastation, but genuine credible action. Stanislavski defines it as thinking, wanting, striving, and behaving truthfully in a logical sequence in a human way within the character and in complete parallel to.
You have to feel as one with the role.
Exactly. The whole point of the system is to stimulate the actor's will to create that inner life afresh, using conscious techniques to activate those subconscious emotional processes indirectly.
And he coined the term psychotechnique for the training exercises supporting this inner work. This sounds like an intensive psychological deep dive before they even touch the script.
It was. Psychotechnique was about cultivating a rich, believable psychological history for the character, often by creating scenes that weren't even written by the playwright.
Like that example from The Cherry Orchard.
Exactly. His 1905 letter to Vera Kotlyarevskaya concerning her role as Charlotta.
Charlotta is a sad, eccentric governess, a relatively small, strange role.
Right. And to build her inner life, he told Kotlyarevskaya to shut herself off and improvise highly specific, non-Chekhovian scenes. He suggested she imagined Charlotta being dismissed and trying to find new employment, maybe in a circus.
Or a cafe.
Or, this is critical, he advised her to try to make her weep sincerely over her life.
A sincere weep over a life that is completely invented, that's powerful. Why impose these fictional external events?
Because Stanislavski wanted to explore the character's psychological range and capacity for genuine emotion. By forcing the actor to commit to these invented circumstances, they discover the character's emotional truth. He concluded, through such an image, you will discover the whole range of notes you need.
So by the time you get on stage, your character is a fully formed person.
Exactly. Their inner life is so rich that even a simple line carries the weight of all that personal history.
That moves us perfectly to the tools the actor uses to bridge their own internal world with the requirements of the script, given circumstances and the magic if. Let's start with the imaginative engine.
That's the magic if. It's the foundational trigger for internal belief. It demands the actor ask, what would I do if I found myself in these circumstances?
Note the emphasis on the I.
It's always the I. The actor is always the self, not a costume. Stanislavski stated that when the actor gives a genuine answer to the if, there is no character, only me.
Wait, that's where an outsider might worry about narcissism. If the actor focuses only on themselves, how do they serve the playwright's vision and the defined role?
That's the genius of the pairing with the given circumstances. The circumstances are the non-negotiable details provided by the playwright, the director, the designers, the setting, the historical period, the specific dramatic situation, the relationships.
All the facts of the story.
All the facts.
Yeah.
The magic if allows the actor to live their own personal psychological life within that specific fictional container.
So it's not I am Hamlet, which is psychologically impossible, but if I, with my own brain and motivations, were a Danish prince whose uncle just murdered his father and married his mother, what would I do next?
Exactly. That reframes the problem from external invitation to internal personal action. Stanislavski strongly warned against the common pitfall. Placing oneself in the role does not mean transferring one's own external reality onto the play. It means the actor must fully incorporate and react truthfully to the circumstances other than one's own. You keep your mind, but you adopt the prison, the palace, or the poverty of the role.
And when this imaginative engine is running perfectly, the actor achieves that state of total immersion.
Yes, the state Stanislavski called I am being. It is a deep, almost meditative absorption in the fictional world, what modern psychologists might call a state of flow.
And he had techniques for that, too.
He did. To achieve this, the actor must eliminate external distractions, the lights, the crew, the audience. He taught 2 core techniques for this: public solitude and circles of attention.
Public solitude, the paradox of being alone while exposed to thousands. How does one train that?
By using the circles of attention, it involves cultivating a mental bubble, a progressively expanding field of focus. You start with the small circle, just yourself, maybe a prop in your hand. Then the middle circle, the immediate scene partner and the furniture. Then the large circle, the whole stage and environment. The purpose is to create what is often described as a third wall around the performer, allowing them to focus entirely on the fictional environment.
So you block out the audience.
You block out the paralyzing self-consciousness of stage fright.
This sounds intensely intellectual and psychological, but the system is called the system of action. How does this deep internal work translate into external, observable movement?
This is the essential pivot. The system moves from internal feeling to external doing through the concept of tasks and action. Stanislavski claimed action was the very basis of our art.
Okay.
An actor's performance is driven by the pursuit of a sequence of tasks.
What defines a task?
A task, sometimes called an objective, is a concrete, actionable problem embedded within the given circumstances that the character must solve right now. Crucially, it must be framed actively.
So you don't try to feel love.
You try to persuade the other person to forgive you. You don't display anger. You try to make the other person leave the room.